All right, so we're officially recording this episode of the Midweek Howl. For all the new listeners, the non-paranormal part of the From the Shadows podcast. Some of our truly loyal listeners will think it's the best part of the From the Shadows podcast because of the yet to speak Ozark Howler. So Howler, we haven't talked in person. We haven't talked over the phone or anything for 10 days, 2 weeks now. You went on vacation. I had some stuff go on. We had to, last week, we had to do a best of episode because we just didn't have the time to get a new episode up. So we're kind of like this is going to be fresh, right? I mean, I don't know how your vacation went. You don't know how my wedding, my honeymoon, Monster Fest.
And the Monster Fest.
And
maybe did your honeymoon turn into Monster Fest? I'm just saying, that's kind of an odd segue there. I never even thought about it until now.
It was a whirlwind of a week and a half. Let me tell you, I will tell you that it was pretty crazy. First off, we got a lot of good response about our episode with Alan from the Bread Truck Records. We got a lot of good response from that, and it came in handy. Our interview with him, one stop along the way on our honeymoon.
Okay.
So I kind of planned our honeymoon out that we'd kind of go through upstate New York. And so like the first night, like we didn't leave right away because of course, we got married. The next day we had Monster Fest in Canton, Ohio, which was an event all into itself. Great event. Very interesting. I think you'd have really enjoyed yourself. And then we left that Monday morning. And so we took off. First place we went to was Belhurst Castle in Geneva, New York. And it was this it's a castle built in the 1800s that then became a speakeasy, during Prohibition, and, has evolved into a place to stay on the lake there. I can't even remember the name of the lake, but it's all those Finger Lakes or whatever in upstate New York.
Yep.
Really cool, super expensive dinner. But I did get the waitresses to admit that there were some ghost stories that went along with the castle, which so I'm hoping that one of the waitresses, she got my information. Hope she gets a hold of me and share some ghost stories. But it's really cool. I put up a video of it on on my TikTok and Instagram. It's just amazing how the wealth people had back in those days to build places like this to live.
I had listened to something that said what Cornelius Vanderbilt or Rothschild or one of them, maybe J.P. Morgan, it would be like 10 times richer than Bill Gates or the richest people now. You know what I mean?
Elon Musk and all those.
Yes, those people.
Bezos and those. Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking, who's the guy that built the big castle out above San Francisco?
Getty.
Maybe it was a Getty. I don't know.
Hearst. Was it Randolph Hearst?
Yeah, it's the newspaper. I guess. Yeah. Did you listen to Jake Brennan's? I went all the way back to Jake Brennan's first podcast, and I've been going through them all on Disgraced Land.
Which episode was it? Which episode are we talking
about? Fatty Arbuckle.
Oh yeah. I've heard that one. The Fatty Arbuckle.
And basically how I don't want to say they trumped all this stuff up, but they made all this stuff up to sell newspapers. So they just embellished all these stories and made all this crap up because it sold copy.
Well, Randolph Hearst got us into, was it the Spanish-American War?
It was. I think it was. Uh-huh.
Yeah, basically just made everything up in the newspaper to get us to enter the war.
Yes.
And get support for it. And it's like, to what end was that? It's just crazy.
I'll tell you what end. His damn place is 2,200 acres. His house is like 40,000 square feet. I can tell you. To what end?
So
You
when
know?
people are screaming about fake news now, they don't even know. Like they literally got us into a
I
war.
think well, what do you think we're doing in Ukraine? What do you think we did in the Great War on Terrorism and the last 25 years of Afghanistan, Iraq, and every other bullshit thing, dude? Come on.
To make somebody else money and not us.
Yes, the military industrial complex and newspapers and you know that they saying around here the first liar ain't got a chance. You
well,
know?
anyway, to see the wealth that had to have been available back for these people, and I don't know the real history of the castle, but this lake is a really big lake. I mean, it's part of it. They said is 600 feet deep. Okay, um, so and they said during World War II, I believe they tested submarines in
Yeah,
this
why
lake.
not? Yeah.
And so anybody wants to take a trip, there's a bunch of wineries and stuff, people that are into that. So the second leg then, so that was about a 6-hour trip for us. I thought that was pretty good. We got there and then the next trip, you know, leg was about 4.5 hours. We went to Lake Placid and stayed
Oh
at the
yeah, where they
Mirror
had
Lake.
the Olympics, right?
They had the 32 Olympics and the 1980 Olympics there. But the reason I wanted to stay was like the Mirror Lake Spa and Inn is supposed to be a really great place. And my oldest daughter had said something to me about it, and it's unbelievable. I mean, it's a great place. Lots of it's beautiful, lots of history. The drive from Belhurst Castle to Lake Placid is that you're going through the Adirondacks, which I had never been up through. I take that back. I'd been close to this Belhurst Castle when I took Olivia, my one daughter that just graduated. She went on a college visit to Cornell. To a basketball camp because she wanted to play basketball there, and we kind of grazed through there enough to know that I wanted to go back. That was kind of the genesis. So we get to Lake Placid, and it's just an amazing, like, little town, and lots of history. You get to go into the Olympic uh, uh, complex there in
Right.
town, and it has the arena where they played the 1980, hockey games. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
Miracle on Ice, which a lot of people don't realize us beating the Russians was not the gold medal game, but the semifinals. I think we beat.
Right.
Can't remember who we beat. Actually, hmm. Anyway, I don't remember who we beat, but we did beat the Russians in the semifinals. And that's kind of, you walk into that, and you kind of, you can feel the history there. Well, then you walk in around the corner and they have the ice rink for the 1932 Olympics. And the difference is
How to
crazy.
compare?
Oh my gosh, it does not compare. There's probably 500 people could have watched the 1932 Olympics. Um, and right outside that is a little hill that overlooks the speed skating rink, which is outside in front of the Lake Placid High School. So essentially, Lake Placid High School is this really like Roman Greek kind of building there on the hill. And in front of it, like, it looks like it would be a football field with a track around it, except the track is where Eric Heiden, remember the great Eric Heiden, won 5 gold medals in the 1980 Olympics. For all the kids
Right.
listening, now that guy was an athlete. He had thighs as big around as an oak tree, man. That guy was a stud. But these kids are out, like, we watched them. They're out there on recess playing soccer on the infield there and playing basketball on that track where Eric Hyde won 5 gold medals. They don't know. They're just out there,
You don't think some old teacher tells them that every day, runs it into the ground?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they're all sick of it. I mean, and then in the distance, which is kind of cool, you can see the ski jump.
Right.
Okay. Like, it's probably a mile or two away. And it's just like, and it was weird because, we were there where all these the smoke from the Canadian wildfires are coming down through and creating a haze.
Now, is that because they're just letting them burn, or is it because
The wind. The wind just blew it.
Okay.
They were coming from the north. And actually, while we were there, I had a listener send me an email and wanted me and you to talk about these Canadian wildfires because he did not know that I was actually in upstate New York while this was going on. His name is Jared Morris. Yeah, sent me an email, and he wanted me because he wondered if in Ohio and where you were in the Ozarks, if the rest of the country even knew about these wildfires going on. And I mean, I know back here in Ohio, they had some haze from the smoke. My daughter down in South Carolina, they were affected by the smoke. And then I started seeing conspiracy theories, of course, arising where they thought, apparently, I don't know how many years ago, within the last 10 years, there was an economist or somebody who got their economics degree or something and wrote up a paper on, have you ever heard this term, 15-minute city? Have you ever heard that term?
No.
So there's a theory out there that they want to make everybody move out of the country and into what they call 15-minute cities, so that no matter where you live in this particular area, you can get to anything you need by public transportation or walking within 15 minutes, meaning you can get to your job, you can get to any restaurant, any health, any doctor or health facility that you need. Just that everything is within 15 minutes. And I think that I don't know what the major ramifications would be, except that, of course, the conspiracy theorists think they'd have more control over us, and it would help the environment because there would be less need for vehicles or something. So, I mean, you've never heard, and you're very well read. Okay, so I can't.
Well, I discount that. Now, I've heard of the term. Once you said that 15-minute city, I just discount it because I don't want to erode your confidence in mankind. But there's so many dumbasses in this world that, and because of the internet, because of this, like us right here, right?
Yeah,
they've all got a voice now.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
They've all got a voice. And first of all, have you ever been in any kind of city that you can get anywhere in 15 minutes? No. Period. Period. I mean, I live out in the country, and I'm telling you, I can get 10 miles in 15 minutes any day of the week. Okay, unless my shit breaks down or I hit a deer or something. So, first of all, to go back to the wildfires.
Did you guys even know they were going on?
Okay, I'm in Missouri.
Yep.
South Missouri, to be exact. With the exception of a few Major League Baseball games, nobody down here gives a damn what goes on east of the Mississippi River. Okay? So people here don't care about your wildfires. We got our own wildfires. Hell, we start wildfires. We put them out, we start them again. Now, I did see the news on them, and I was talking about them today because I was out in Yellowstone last week where their new policies just let them burn. If they're inside the park, they just let it burn. Because what they found is this 50, 75 years of fire suppression, the only thing it's done is now they got 50 or 75 years of dead trees and kindling built up.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Now, when it does burn, there's basically two things. They had a picture of Teddy Roosevelt on a log outside of one of those cabins, outside one of those lodges, right?
Yeah.
That log is still there, and it's been 100 years.
Oh my gosh!
Because it's so dry out there that the trees just never rot away.
Wow!
It takes hundreds of years for them to rot away, and because of that, whenever they have a big pile of trees, either from a small fire or a windstorm or a avalanche or whatever, them dead trees stay there for a century unless they let the fire burn. So from now on, as long as it's not up to like Old Faithful Lodge or something, or about to leave the boundaries of the park, they're just going to let it burn. So somebody told me today the reason why the Canadians are so bad right now is because they had the same policy that we had, and there's just 50 years of kindling burning, which is why it's so bad.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, no, it's obviously a lot wetter around here where I'm at in Ohio, but you can drive by little 5-10 acre plots of wood, and you can see all the fallen trees and the down brush and stuff, and it wouldn't go up in flames like that because it's wetter. But you could take that same little 10-acre plot of trees and put them out west where it's drier, and you could see how that would take about literally a half hour to burn because it would just be like a huge bonfire. Like,
Yes.
hey, let's just set it, and then it would feed itself and be so hot you wouldn't even be able to.
I went to a burn school back in February. I don't think I talked about it, but
No.
The Missouri Department of Conservation puts on this burn school. Basically, they want you to burn for food plots and stuff like that. You know what I mean? If you're going to do wildlife food plots, and the theory is they train you up, and then you won't be a badass wildfire because they're going to train you, how to look at the humidity and the weather and all these factors, right? So in that class, there was a little, they had like an acre and a half maybe of I don't even know what it was, tall fescue and some kind of warm season grasses or whatever put together. And they said, well, for the class, we're going to start here a little, I don't remember what they call backing fire, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and I said how long it's going to take, or somebody that's standing next to me said how long it's going to take. So for the class, it's going to take 25 or 30 minutes. And the guy was like, 25 or 30 minutes? That's awful fast. He said, this guy's a professional, basically fire burner for the state. You know what I mean? They go to these, they burn a lot of stuff for the state. And he looked over at us and he said, if we were burning this at work for real, it'd take us about 7 or 8 minutes to burn this. We'd start it over here on the upside of the wind. And they did they burnt part of it, and then they turned around and burnt the other part of it just to show you how fast it can really go up. You know what I mean? Tall grass when it's drying stuff. And I'm telling you, dude, they burnt a football field in about as long as it just told me to tell you about it. About a minute and a half. They started upwind and just let it blow across, you know what I mean? And poof.
How could you ever stand a chance at putting that out? You couldn't.
I don't know. I mean, obviously don't say that because we waste. I mean, the fire industrial complex ain't quite what the military industrial complex is, but it's certainly big in trying to put all the stuff. I mean, look at the great lengths they try to put all the stuff out in California.
Well, but did you not just see? It wasn't that long. It was State Farm said that they were no longer going to insure new houses built in California because of the last so many.
Yeah, and that's because they've been putting the fires out for 25 or 30 years, right?
Well, yeah, and so they've had to replace all these houses that they couldn't save, and it's just been, it makes our policies that much higher. Here, we're paying for the houses in California that have been going up in flames when there's probably there's not 10 house fires in the whole county. I know there's not the town in Bucyrus, because they used to make a big deal about my uncle when they were in the fire department had maybe one fire a year that was a real structure fire.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, why do we need these full-time fire? Well, because when there is that one full-time or one real structure fire, you need somebody to fight it.
I worked with an old cop that used to say that this is back before they started. Now they send ambulance or fire trucks to all the ambulance calls, but we'd have in Jeff City, the capital, it'll have maybe 2 or 3 structure fires a year. A couple of cars, more car fires than structure fires. But when their budget got to be $3.5 million just 30 years ago, he said, "My God, we could put all that money in an account and just have a checkbook down at City Hall. So if your house burns down, the nicest houses in town were $250,000 30 years ago." He said, and the houses that do burn are usually crap, $30,000 houses. He said, just let these houses burn and just go down to City Hall and get your check. And it'll be cheaper than having all this fire stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
He's also the guy, I think I told you the bus story, right?
Oh gosh, what's the bus?
So the same guy, right?
Okay.
And his mom was in politics and and he was just city council. His mom was on the city council. Just a dude that's been and actually left the police department and went to private sector and made a lot of money. So now he's the rich eccentric guy. Back then he was just a crazy cop, and now he's a rich eccentric. But the other thing, his thing was that they had a deal where they brought all these natural gas buses in the early 90s. You know what I'm talking about? To inner city buses, you know? And I don't remember what they were, like $300,000 a piece, $400,000 a piece. That sound right for a city bus? It was some crazy amount of money.
Probably. I mean, it has to be. I mean,
and the average passenger count was like 2.5 people.
Yeah.
Because nobody rides them. And he blew up at that. And he said, dude, we could go down here, instead of buying $1 million worth of buses, we could buy 3 Lincoln Continentals or 4 town cars, top of the line, for what one bus costs. The drivers will like driving them better, and that 2.5 people will like riding in them because they won't feel poor. People aren't riding the bus because they feel poor. When a Lincoln comes and picks you up at the bus stop, more people ride in
it. That was somebody's idea?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, right? You're spending, $350,000 on a city bus that nobody rides. Buy a Lincoln Continental.
By 6 of them, 8 of them, right?
Of course, now I don't know. I mean, look what I've been looking at used cars, and I don't even want to go there with you.
Oh, geez. Well,
finish the honeymoon and we can go off on a tangent.
Well. So, Jared, if that answers your question, the Howler and those guys in Missouri didn't really know what was going on in Canada, but in the East and all the way down to South Carolina, everybody was affected by that smoke. So anyway, and so back to Lake Placid, it was really cool. And I walked in, Christy, the morning we were leaving, wanted to go to this clothing shop, and I noticed this like comic book store beside it. But what I noticed was it had like gold records in there. Like, you see like somebody that did something on a record, gets a framed
gold record on the wall.
Yeah. And so I had to go in and look. And so I go in there and I start talking to the guy that owns it. And here, and I can't remember the guy's name. I feel dumb now, but he was a big record executive with CBS Records, and he lived not too far away from Lake Placid. And he managed Kenny Rogers for a long time and a bunch of other smaller artists. And his wife had, I don't know if she's a producer or something, but she was on some Clint Black, or no, Vince Gill records. Like I said, there was a Jody Messina record, but this guy died, and his wife came to this guy and said, "Hey, I got his personal collection of gold records, and in the back it was all Kenny Rogers stuff, and they had all these passes. Like, I bought a pass for the Super Bowl from like 2006. It said to get you on the field as a talent, and the CMAs, and he had all these records that had never been released because they were not made for the public. They were, you could go buy them at the store eventually, but the versions that he had, some of them never were supposed to be released, or they were supposed to go directly just to the radio stations. And there's just some other cool stuff in there. And I kind of knew a little bit what I was looking at, because we had Alan from the Bread Truck Records on.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool. I felt like, wow, okay, the podcast is paying dividends. So I actually got a Dwight Yoakam, his first record that had not been released to the public. It was I think it's called a white label or whatever. And I got a McGuffey Lane, which doesn't mean much to anybody probably outside of Ohio, but McGuffey Lane is a really popular country act in Ohio back in the 70s and 80s, and had a major label deal. And their lead singer, I think his name was Bob McNally, got killed in Columbus by his girlfriend back in the early 80s. And crazy story. But his son Rob is probably the best well-known session guitar player down in Nashville right now, and actually plays with my buddy Moose Brown in the Silver Bullet Band. And so they had one of their records, so they must have been signed to CBS or something. But it was a really cool collection, and I bought a couple pieces of it just because it was very interesting, and so it was a really cool shop to go into. And the guy said he's the only shop around that does that, and I said, well, obviously people with money are coming to Lake Placid, not me, but other people. And I said, you're going to do well selling this stuff. So he said he had already sold some pretty high end items out of it. So it was kind of cool just to, it was a nice little cool town. Guy I went to high school with actually coached for the USA Olympic team back in the 90s and into the early 2000s. He coached bobsled and like the skeleton, I think and what's the other thing that goes downhill? The, oh gosh. Is it just the bobsled and skeleton, or what?
It's on the sled, but they have all kinds of downhill stuff. You're talking about in the bobsled?
In the bobsled, there's like the skeleton, the bobsled, and there's something else that they race down, like the one man. Oh gosh, what is that?
Like one man bobsled?
Well, it's like they're on a sled, and I don't think that's the skeleton. Maybe it is. I don't know. My Winter Olympic sports, but he coached those, and he actually got to race in some of them when somebody got hurt or whatever. So it's kind of cool. I sent him some pictures, and he knew right away we were in Lake Placid. So I highly recommend to go that. But then, so the next stop I booked we were going to the Trapp Family Lodge in Stowe, Vermont. And it's the lodge where the Van Trapp family from The Sound of Music, because that's based on a real story, it's where they settled when they escaped Austria in Stowe, Vermont.
The Sound of Music people.
And The Sound of Music people. So the Julie Andrews character wrote a book, okay? I don't remember, Elsa or something, maybe was her name, but she wrote a book. That story then got optioned for Mary Martin on Broadway, and Rodgers and Hammerstein, I think, wrote the soundtrack or whatever. So it became a Broadway show. Then it became a or a movie. Okay. Well, the actual family, the Von Trapp family, when they left Austria, ended up going to Stowe, Vermont, because it looked so much like Austria. And so they built like a little house, and they were the Von Trapp family singers. So they toured the world for 20, 30 years singing. Okay. And when they left, they rented out their house to skiers who were coming to Stowe, Vermont to ski. So they said, well, you know what? People love coming here, whatever. So they bought 2,500 acres on the side of this hill. And and there's farmland and stuff, and put up this huge lodge, and it is really cool. And you get, Stowe, Vermont's down the hill. It's a nice little, what you think of a New England town. And the lodge, it's kind of old, but it's very it makes you think about like remember the movie Dirty Dancing, when those people all went to like and you're like, do people really go to places like that for like a week or a month or something? This is that kind of place. Like, you'd go and there's a pond that you could go to. There's a swimming pool. There's a workout room, tennis courts. You can go bird watching, go hike. It's like, it's this really cool big lodge. And, but on the way there, here's what's crazy. So on the way there, it's all 2-lane highway through the Adirondacks. There's no 4-lane highway. So it's not that far mileage wise, but like literally from Lake Placid to Stowe, it's like 90 miles. It was like a 3-hour trip.
Yeah, tell me about it. I was just in Yellowstone.
and so we're getting to this town, and it tells us to take a left, and I can see this lake in front because there's just lakes everywhere. It's so beautiful, this country. Well, you get to this lake, and I don't know what lake it is because I'm going by the GPS. We don't. This is where you needed to have an atlas so you can see, but here it's Lake Champlain, okay, which is a huge lake, and it tells me to take a left and then take a right to get on the ferry. I'm like, I'm not getting on a ferry. What's my GPS doing? Well, you start looking, and if you go around the bottom of the lake, it's like an extra 2 hours. And I'm like, well, I guess we're supposed to go to the ferry. Like, it didn't even seem real. And I pull down there, and we're like the next to last car. They go, hey, good thing you're getting on here. We're getting ready to pull out. And so, like, for $20, pulled the Suburban right onto the ferry, and 25 minutes later, halfway across the lake,
you worry about falling, sinking, or tipping over. Ferry is usually what does that, right?
I know. I was like, oh my gosh. So I said, well, I told Trish, I said, that's one thing off the bucket list. I never expected to enter another state on a ferry. That was just not part of the plan. So, but it was kind of an interesting twist. So, but yeah, it was a cool trip. If you haven't been to the upstate New York and through the Adirondacks, it's worth driving through at least once because it's a whole different world, And I'm going to tell you right now, if there ain't Bigfoot in the Adirondacks, there ain't Bigfoot anywhere, because 10 foot into the woods you couldn't even see, and it's just lakes everywhere. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's just different, I mean, you know how it is. You get out of your neck of the woods, and it's different. So
right.
So how was your vacation? Any run-ins with bison or buffalo or anything like that, or
they're everywhere. I didn't get out and wrestle them, if that's what you're asking, because I can read the signs. I did see a big old brown bear running down the hill that was faster than you'd have thought it would have been.
Really? How big do you suppose it was?
About 600-800 pounds.
Wow.
And you know what? Half the people backed up. I don't even think they saw it because they were looking at these buffalo in the road, and they didn't look up on the hill and see this bear. But you were talking about 90 miles, 3 hours ago, 90 miles. Most of Yellowstone is 35 mile an hour. Some of it's 25 mile an hour. And they say it's the size of Delaware and Rhode Island combined. And I say, okay, just drive through both Delaware and Rhode Island at 30 miles an hour. It was the longest, slowest driving I've ever did. Several days in a row.
And you're just driving through the park and to see stuff? Like, can you get out and walk around and
you
hike?
can get out and do certain things. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have my bear spray.
Is bear spray really going to do it?
Dude, I don't know. That's what was you saying a while ago about Hearst making all that money? Somebody's making money on bear spray because it's everywhere. They don't take any returns. You can rent bear spray.
What?
I don't know. Wait. Yeah, there was some bear spray rental.
Red bear spray.
Yes. So this is what I did. I flew into Jackson. We flew into Jackson, and
well, the picture you sent me of you guys getting back on the airplane, that kind of looked like a 1950s like American Airlines ad or something.
Well, it's a pretty rustic location. So you can go, anybody Googles up Jackson, Wyoming, you'll see, the elk arches and all that. Now, my daughter had a great time at, what's his name? John Party.
Oh yeah. John Party.
He played a free concert downtown. And, so we flew into Jackson, spent a few days there. When I had started making plans, I didn't realize a lot of stuff doesn't open until June 1st because of the snow.
Okay.
So anyway, we drove through the park and went over to Cody, Wyoming, which I've been to before. Stayed in Buffalo Bill's old hotel, and then I drove up through. I actually cut my Yellowstone a day short because it just looked like there was more stuff to do outside the park than inside the park. My kids were getting bored. We took them through Grand Teton National Park, and we took them to Yellowstone on the way. And my teenagers had just went from a John Party concert with their phones and their social media, and now I'm asking them to walk through the pine trees and look for the elusive grizzly bear. And they would rather get back in the truck and drive somewhere to where we have it. Because a lot of times you're driving for 2-3 hours with no signal. Your phone says SOS only.
Yeah.
So anyway, then I took them up through Billings, Montana. Went up to the headwaters of Missouri. Went to Bozeman, spent the night, and then come back through the west entrance. Went through Big Sky, Montana, which is that's where all the yuppity people apparently are, and then went down into the park for the last couple of days, and then got stranded at the airport on the way out. So,
see, it's trips like that you, like Christy and I really appreciated the trip to the Adirondacks because of how cool it was and different and, rustic and stuff. If we'd had kids with us, they'd have never even looked out the window. They'd have been looking down at their phone the whole time.
Yes, probably. Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like a trip to Yellowstone. Like I would be in awe, if I was sitting there in the passenger seat looking at the wonders of, nature. Kids don't care about that stuff. I guess. Yes. I don't know. I don't understand why.
We didn't beat them enough. We give them too much. I mean, we spoiled them. We've don't get me going on how we've screwed up this whole.
Well, is it also because when I was a kid, you didn't get to travel a whole lot. We went up to the lake some, and I went to Florida once with my grandparents, but I didn't get to go see mountains and oceans, and you know what I'm saying? And you couldn't just pull it up on your phone and see all that stuff, see videos of it and stuff. You think kids are just desensitized because they can pull it up and see it in 10 seconds? And
I traveled a lot when I was a kid. My old man was a horse trader, mule trader, traveler. I can't even tell you. But traveling, like the first 2 or 3 times I went to Colorado, my old man had like a 77 Chevy 1-ton dually with no air conditioning. And he put a white camper topper on that thing with and had a mattress in the back, and me and my brother, a regular cab dually, you know what I mean? So there's no crew cab, there ain't nothing this palatial stuff we drive. And him and my mom was up front, and me and my big brother, we were in the back in the bed of a truck under a white fiberglass camper for 12 or 14 hours at a time.
God, that would be awful.
But
I know what you're talking about. Like, I know what you're talking about.
The only thing that made it bearable is the freaking exhaust fumes kept you knocked out half the time. I guess. I don't know, Or I remember my mom bought a car. It was probably 83 or 84 because I remember I was in the 5th grade and I said something about my mom getting a new car. And I said, well, it's not new. It's used. Well, what is it? And I said, it's a 79. So this was probably about early 80s. And I remember my teacher was like, holy cow, that's a pretty new car. It's only a couple years. And it was a Ford Country Squire wagon in white with a wood grain on the side, 79 Country Squire wagon. And it had a back jump seat that
faced backwards. You sat it and you faced backwards.
Right? Yes. Uh-huh. Now, if that's not a recipe to puke, I don't know what is. So back in them days, you prayed you didn't have to go very far because what kind of damn environment you were going to
have? Oh man! So when we think about the good old days, sometimes they really weren't that good.
I don't know. I don't. I don't know if I'm going to go that far either. You appreciate more stuff more often, maybe. I don't know what you'd say.
Well, so talking about appreciate. So we talked about Monster Fest. So we went to Monster Fest. Me and the judge, Phil and Nita. Okay, and Phil's son Hayden. Okay, so we all went up to Monster Fest. We had pictures, 8x10 stickers, stuff to sell. And Nita and Phil and Hayden did a really good job. They walked around, passed our cards out to people, so you could, because it's amazing how many people don't. I shouldn't say that, but people who are at Monster Fest like the paranormal stuff. Okay, and you'd think that they would have searched through many different podcasts or forms of entertainment that pertain to the paranormal. But it's amazing how many people that had never heard of us. And
that does not surprise me, but that's okay.
But I mean, in that setting, like if you said, "Hey, we're out in the middle of the street at a restaurant in downtown Columbus," and nobody'd heard of us, I'd be like, "Well, of course not." But in that setting, okay, it'd be like going to a baseball card show, and nobody here, nobody have heard, and me being a pro baseball player, sitting there at a table, and I played for 5 years or something. Most people there would know who those people were. But anyway, this young lady and her mom, Aubrey, I think was her name, came up to the table. They had never heard of the podcast, but they had seen me and the judge in the American Werewolves documentary. And you would have thought, the judge especially, you'd have thought it was Kevin Costner and I was Rip off of Yellowstone. I mean, they were
so that one interaction made it worthwhile.
That was the first interaction.
And we had many. We're off to the races.
We had. What you thought we had many more. We had many more. We had many more than I thought we would have. But they were so like genuinely, like really in awe of getting to meet us, taking pictures with us. They bought autographed 8x10s, and they were so sweet. They were super nice. We were thankful, and they walked away. After it was like 15 minutes, we sat there and talked to them and stuff. And the judge looks at me and goes, "That was kind of weird, like that people came up and knew who we were, and they didn't even listen to the podcast. They didn't even know we had a podcast. They just knew us from that movie." And so it was really neat to get to see that. So I'm kind of looking forward to getting you at a live show like that. And I think we're I think we talked about, Anita has kind of urged me. I think we're going to do something in the fall if we can find the right weekend here at our campground, and we're going to do a camp out. And
whoa, with a bunch of strangers, or just us?
Well, it's going to be us with people that we know in the paranormal.
Oh, you're going to screen them.
Well, and we're going to let some fans buy some tickets to come, pay to come and hang out and do some.
I think that's a bad idea to charge them and make it harder to run them off if you have a problem with them.
Well, I don't think we're not going to let everybody camp. We're going to invite you.
I think you need to spool up Netflix tonight and watch Play Misty for me or something. So Eastwood movie.
Well, I think we're going to try something like that. I don't know. We're going to see. But I think it'll be big, because I think then the people that would come to hang out with us are really going to be they're going to enjoy interacting with you, and you can bring your wife along, and then your wife will finally realize that you are the celebrity that we all know you are, right? I mean, that's how I look at it. We're doing this just to prove it to your wife. No,
she doesn't even like me.
Wait till you guys travel a lot. Wait till you're out traveling somewhere and you say something and somebody hears you and they say, "Hey, are you the Ozark Howler?" Your wife.
You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, you're the second person that says I sound like you, but I don't even know who that is. That's what I'm going to say.
And then you know what? As soon as you say that, they're going to be like, "I knew it was you," because that's exactly what the other side. But on a side note, the wedding went pretty good. We didn't have any no catastrophes. It was the judge did the ceremony. The only thing missing was you making it there. That would have made it complete. But it was a lot of fun. Nice, simple. My friends that own Yellow Brick on 39 there outside of Sugar Creek. It's a really cool little venue. And when they got it done enough that we could have the wedding there, they're doing some more stuff to it, and they have their next official wedding in September. It's going to be really awesome. Now, that being said, excuse me, the one thing they didn't have done was the restrooms inside. So I had to
get nervous and you had to go to the bathroom.
No, I had to rent a porta potty. Okay. So when we first talked about this, I'm like, okay, I get, I can rent. Well, I mean, what's a porta potty going to cost? I'm envisioning like a blue, like thing.
$250 a day. I don't even know.
Listen, this porta potty that I ended up having to rent for it was a 3-day rental, was nicer than any toilet that you and I have ever been in any hotel we've ever stayed in anywhere in the world. I'm just going to tell you that.
I don't know. I've been in some nice hotels.
This was I'm going to tell you. It came in on a little trailer. It was a men's side and a woman's side. It was air conditioned. It was the cleanest, I urged people, like, listen, I don't care if you got to go to the bathroom, go in there and wash your hands, because this is the nicest thing you're ever going to be in. But it cost me $1,400 for this. I immediately, my postmaster.
Did you get to keep it?
No, I wish.
Okay.
I mean, $1,400. So you think, like, to rent one of those blue plastic ones, it's like $100 a day. Okay, so I literally could have rented 14 of those blue things.
But you didn't want your friends to go in some crappy old the fair.
Listen,
I need a good one.
Exactly. I didn't have a choice. Okay, I was told what I was getting. That's what we got.
What you got.
But it was, and she doesn't listen, so she's never going to hear that I said a lot of times when Christy makes a suggestion, it turns out to be the right one. And so this turned out to be the right one. Everybody was really happy. And that, we were thankful for all the people that traveled, because we did not have our wedding in our backyard, so to speak. It took people a little time to get there. So we appreciated everybody that traveled to come and celebrate with us. So it was the least we could do to have a nice place to go to the bathroom. There you go. But I will say this: I told the postmaster, he's a young guy. He's always got side hustles going, very successful side hustles. And I said, dude, you find us 3 of these, I'm in for half. We're buying them. We're going to rent them out. I said, because these are, I guess it's nothing but a moneymaker. I mean, if you had an old crappy motorhome or even a nice motorhome, you could literally tow this behind your motorhome and just turn your bathroom in your motorhome into just a big shower, because the shower's never big enough. Turn it into a shower and pull this behind you as your bathroom, and it'd be great. Sounds like a lot of trouble, but this would be great.
Yes, I don't know. I don't want to erode your rain on your parade or anything, but if you think I've got to make a living turn my RV into a shit house, I'll go on welfare before that happens.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.